Chapter 27. Mr. Broom Emerges. "Winger!" Boom cried, rushing down the stairs with the baby in his arms. "Go outside and open those boxes. They're full of money." "Money?" Winger pulled back the curtain. "Start giving it away." "Give it away? Boom, are you crazy? There's like 20 boxes out there." It did sound crazy, but money wouldn't cure Myrtle. "It's a distraction," Boom explained, "to help Myrtle." "Oh, okay then." Winger opened the door. "Good luck, everyone." He scurried around the mud circle and ran toward the van, yelling, "Hey, look over here! Free money!" The reaction was exactly what Boom had hoped for. The reporters dropped their microphones and the camera crews dropped their equipment as Winger held up fists full of dollars. The wind claimed some of the bills, scattering them across the street. Like hungry raccoons fighting over ripe bananas, the reporters pushed and shoved and fought to grab as much money as possible. The mumps, with their stout bodies and greedy dispositions, fought their way into the center of the crowd. "The coast is clear," Boom said. Out the back door went Halvor, Myrtle, Boom, and the baby. Across the edge of the yard they hurried, over the fence and into the trampled cornfield. No one on Prosperity Street took notice. The scent of money polluted the air and filled every nostril. The money grabbers screamed and kicked one another, stuffing the bills into pockets and down shirts. Halvor took Myrtle's arm as they ran across the field, helping her keep her balance. Boom had tucked the baby in his jacket. Her green face peeked out like a pea in a pod. They came to the edge of the forest, and Boom looked over his shoulder, relieved to see that no one was following. The baby clung tightly to Boom as they ran down a path strewn with fallen branches. Through the windswept trees they hurried until they came to the cliff's edge. Mr. Jorgensen's boat floated into the sloppy sea below. The sight of the majestic ship, with its dragon figurehead and graceful keel, would have made the real Vikings proud. Captain Igor waved from the steering oar. Down the steep trail they stumbled, slowing at each of the switchbacks until they reached the water. The tide swelled high, and the sea slapped against the cliff's face. Mr. Jorgensen rowed up in his rowboat. "Bless your heart, Myrtle," he said when he looked upon her fuzzy face. As Myrtle climbed in, he yelled above the wind's howl, "Bert couldn't come. His wife said he had to stay home and unclog the bathroom sink." "Down 2 men," Halvor grumbled. "Winger and Bert, that's not good. In this storm we need all the rowing hands we can get." "You're right, but where can we get another pair of hands?" Mr. Jorgensen asked. Boom looked back up the cliff. He'd climbed the trail many times in his life, but had never run it. He handed the baby to Myrtle. "I'll go get another pair of hands," he said. "I'll be back as soon as I can." His heart pounded as he forced his limbs up the steep path. He didn't stop to rest, not once, as he ran through the forest and across the cornfield. The wind continued its crazy dance, whistling in his ears and snaking around his face. Would Hurley help them? Mr. Mump seemed strong, but would he care enough to help his neighbors? Mr. Mump had backed his truck next to the delivery van and was fighting over the boxes. Hurley and Daisy stood in the truck's bed, kicking people as they tried to climb in to get their hands on more money. Everyone was screaming at everyone else. Forget them, Boom thought. I know who will help. Boom ran through his back door right to the hall closet. "Dad," he called, opening the door. Mr. Broom's long hair hung in his face, matted with nervous sweat. He clung to a mop. "The twister, has it come again?" he asked. "Is that why everyone is screaming?" "No, Dad, there's no twister." Boom knelt inside the closet and took his dad's trembling hands. "Dad, we need your help. You must listen to me. Myrtle's in danger." "Myrtle?" Mr. Broom's hands stopped shaking and he looked directly into Boom's eyes. "My little Myrtle? She's sick for real this time, and we're trying to get her to people who can cure her. We have to row to Whalefin Island, and we need your help." "Where is she?" "Outside. She's outside. We have to go outside, Dad." Mr. Broom gasped. "Out of the house? Into the wind?" "Yes, Dad, into the wind. Mom's not here to help us. You've got to be the one." "Into the wind?" Boom lost all patience. "Myrtle might die," he yelled. Boom was the child, and the quivering mass on the floor was supposed to be the adult. "Get up and help us," Boom begged. "Please, Dad, don't you see that if I can go outside, then so can you? Don't you think I was scared after Mom died? I wanted to crawl under my bed, but I didn't. I went outside, and you can do it too." He took a deep, frenzied breath. "We can't let Myrtle die. I don't want Myrtle to die. She needs us." Mr. Broom's eyes widened. "Die? My little Myrtle?" He put down the mop, and the dazed mask that he had worn for the past year seemed to melt away. Then I must go, he said, crawling out of the closet. Boom helped him to his feet and handed him a coat. Mr. Broom put it on with trembling hands. I must go outside. Mr. Broom took a cautious step out the back door, wincing as the wind whipped his face. Outside, he repeated. Boom took his father's hand and pulled him free of the house that had become his prison. Mr. Broom was a good runner, and he kept pace with Boom as they crossed the cornfield. See, Dad? Boom yelled, pumping his legs. The wind won't hurt us. There's nothing to be worried about. No twisters? Mr. Broom asked. No twisters, Boom told him. Had Boom hesitated before answering, he would not have said what he said, because a mere 2 seconds later a sound approached, similar to the sound Halvor's blender made when chopping fish fins. Boom looked over his shoulder, expecting to see a reporter's helicopter, but the sky above his house had turned black and thick clouds swirled above it, churning and tossing rainbow dandelions every which way. A twister! In the name of Thor, a twister! Both Boom and Mr. Broom screamed so loud that Boom thought they might burst their lungs. The Bumps and the reporters began to scream as well. Fear seized hold of Boom's body, but he knew there was no time for fear. He pulled his dad's arm until they reached the forest edge. They turned to check the twister's progress. The Broom house still stood, but the churning spiral of wind kicked up bits of cornstalk as it raced across the field. Into the forest Boom and his father ran as the twister followed, tearing out saplings as if they were mere fish kebab skewers. Run! Boom screamed as the twister came closer. They stopped at the cliff's edge. Below, the others waved from the Viking ship, then screamed and pointed as the twister appeared at the top of the cliff. Down the trail, father and son ran. Mr. Broom lost his balance, sliding to the first switchback. Boom slipped as well, but regained his footing. Rocks tumbled by as the twister touched the cliff's edge. They weren't going to make it. No way. The twister would overtake them. The tide had risen higher and the Viking ship drifted close to the cliff's face. Jump! Captain Igor shouted. Jump! Echoed Halvor. Jump? Were they nuts? A rock hit Mr. Broom in the shoulder, and Boom turned to see the edge of the twister within reach. The force of it stung his entire body. He grabbed his father's hand, and together they jumped. End of chapter 27.